talking about sin. We're talking about the third sin of the Bible. Because, of course, if we're talking about sin, I must talk in a Southern accent. I don't know why. It's the Baptist in me, although I've never been Baptist. For anybody who hasn't been on here before and heard my definition of sin, here's the deal. I go to church. I love my church, but I also really love to read my Bible. And when I read it, I notice things that are like maybe my own perception of it, but it helps me grow. And so that's what I'm sharing. I am by no means some sort of like Bible scholar. I did not go to Bible school, but I think there's really cool things in here. And so, I'm talking about the sins of the Bible. And here's what I realized about the sins of the Bible. The things that God instructed us to do are things that like legitimately have a reason. Whether it's like those crazy rules of like you can only eat this kind of meat and not this kind of meat. These rules, if you actually follow them up, the rules in here, there's a reason for them. So the meat that you can't eat is actually meat that is most likely to be toxic to you. And especially in the Old Testament when they didn't have like ovens that could reach 400 degrees to make sure everything's dead and all this sort of stuff. So when I talk about sins, I look at things that like God made rules to make our life better. And so it's not like, oh, if you sin, God loves you less. It's like, if you sin, your life's going to get harder. And it's just like how it is with my own child. The rules I give her, not because I'm like, you should just do this because you should do this. I'm like, no, this is what you need to do to make your life better in the long run. Anyways, that being said, are you ready to talk about the third sin of the Bible? So we're like chilling in the Garden of Eden right now, and God's like, hey, don't eat that apple. And then the first sin that we talked about, if y'all were here, was like God says not to eat the Bible, or not to eat the Bible. Good Lord, please don't eat the Bible. I mean, it might be tasty if you're really hungry. God says don't eat the apple. And then the devil comes around. He's like, hey, woman, you should eat the apple. And then the woman's all, hey, man, you should eat the apple. So peer pressure. First story, very first thing out of the Bible, God was like, hey, I know how humans are. We're going to start with the story of peer pressure and caving to peer pressure. Sin number one. Sin number two was last week. And last week was about fear. Because what happened was they ate from the tree, and the first thing they did was turn fearful. And it was not helpful to them. It was very bad for them. So there's the second thing that God does not want for us is fear. And if you flip through the Bible, it's like over 100 times God says, fear not, for I am with you. Have no fear, or something of the sort. So that's number two. That is, God does not want you to be afraid. And then number three, this is the third one in the Bible. This is like, we're still in the exact same story. And I love this because this is like one of the hardest things I struggle with. And I think it's amazing that it is like the outcome of the story. And so we'll just go right to it. You cool with me reading the Bible right here on Facebook? See if we're going to barn. Okay, so here we go. Here God's like, hey, y'all, why'd you eat this apple? And God's all, like, who told you were naked? The Lord asked. You have eaten from the tree whose fruit I commanded you not to eat. The Lord asked the woman, what have you done? And the woman's response, the serpent deceived me. She replied, that's why I ate it. Awesome. And then, we got to back up a second. Who told you were naked? The Lord asked, have you eaten from the tree whose fruit I commanded you not to eat? The man replied, it was the woman who gave me the fruit and I ate it. Oh, so man blames the woman. And then the Lord asked the woman, what have you done? And the woman says, the serpent deceived me. She replied, that's why I ate it. Look, very first story in the Bible, very first problem, and nobody's taking responsibility. We're all just looking for excuses. Now, here's what blows my mind. Okay, let's imagine this. God has just made human. He has made human design. He has given them what we call free will. He's like, you guys, I know how this works. I made you. And then you're going to sit back and use the excuse like, well, he told me to. Oh, she told me to. If I was God, like, could you just imagine, like, you're your parent, your kid's like, well, Susie told me to. Oh, like, I'd be full of fury and rage. Like, just take responsibility for it. And so the stories, we look at, the outcomes of it and we're like, it's so weird, like they ate an apple and God gave Eve childbirth pains. Or, I will sharpen the pain of your pregnancy, and in pain you will give birth, and you will desire to control your husband, but he will rule over you. Now here's what's really funny, is that Eve gave away her power. And when you stop taking responsibility for things, you're giving away your power over those things. Basically, you're saying like, I have no control over it. Somebody else is more powerful than me that is in control. And so these outcomes are directly like, hey, you gave away your control, so now you will want your husband and have no control over him. You will give childbirth and have no control over the feelings of it. Although here we are 2,000 years later with the ability to have an epidural. Thanks, God. And then for man, same thing. Since you listen to your wife, the ground is cursed because of you. You will struggle to scratch a living from it. You will grow thorns and thistles for you, though you will eat of its grains. That by the sweat of your brow you will have food to eat until you return to the ground. So here's God. Okay, man, you gave away your power. I'm going to make your living even harder too. Like you wanted to lose responsibility, you want to lose power. I'm going to make it harder for you to do your thing. And so I just think it's such an important lesson for everybody and anybody. The idea of take responsibility for your choices. This isn't new to anybody. It is the very first story in the Bible. And it is like the glaring end to that story. Oh, I did it because she told me to. Oh, I did it because he told me to. I just built you with free will, humans. I will confess to you guys, I struggle with it. Yesterday was a really tough day for me. I know I come on here and I'm bubbly and I'm happy, but guess what? Sometimes I'm not the most happiest person. And it has a lot to do with this. You like my Heels of Hope? Oh, you also like this on here? Heels of Hope. So here's my story, you guys. I, for the last 2 years, organized a high-heeled 5K and organized people walking 3.1 miles in high heels. And it's kind of ridiculous. Actually, it's a lot ridiculous. And this year, I was organizing it, and I fell behind in the process, and I was not as responsible as I should have been, and things were falling behind, and I canceled it. And that sucks. So yesterday was supposed to be Heels of Hope, and it wasn't. And the weather was really awesome. I was like, couldn't it be like storming or something? So I could be like, well, even if I had done it. No. But here was the temptation. The temptation was to go like, well, my friends, didn't help me out, or these certain programs or these certain groups said they were going to help me out and they didn't really step up to the plate. Or, you know what, I just don't have free time for it. Or, there are a gajillion excuses I could make, and I could continue to put the responsibility out on other people. And I could just be like, hey, this didn't happen this way, or I could have done, but guess what? If I do that, if I were to say, I couldn't do Heels of Hope this year because this hadn't happened and this didn't, and I need this to happen. Well, next time I try to organize an event, what's going to happen? I won't feel powerful to do it. I'll say, well, I can't organize it because I need to have like 3 groups that'll be in charge of this, and I need to have so many people that'll do this, and I can't trust that that's going to happen. Well, duh. If I want it done, I need to be in charge of it. And you know what? If those people don't sign on to help out, it's because I haven't got them encouraged to do it. I had people that were willing to help. They were literally like, tell me what to do. And I was too intimidated to be like, well, you should do this. I was like, well, here's some things you could pick. My fault. All my fault. So as much as it sucked yesterday, it sucked. I was just at home like, this is my fault. I messed this up. My bad. And it really sucked, but it was empowering at the same time, because it was like, it's on me and I can do this again next time, and I know what I know now, and I can be in charge of that sort of thing. So the moral of the story is, you guys, as much as it sucks, we are responsible and we don't need excuses. We are empowered. The man above gave us free will. He gave it to us for a reason. There are pretty drastic consequences when we don't take responsibility. Do you ever wonder, sometimes I read the Bible like a choose your own adventure, and I think like, what would happen if they did this differently? And I think like, so what if God went to man and was like, why did you eat from the fruit? And man was like, it is my fault. I'm sorry. I should not have done that. I mean, would God have been like, yeah, way to take responsibility. Because you have shown power in this choice, I shall give you more powers. Man, you shall now be capable of flying. Yes. Or, you know, woman, like, man blames woman and comes to woman, Eve. I mean, and Eve is like, you're right, God, I should not have done that. And God be like, because now you have taken responsibility, I give you great powers. You can walk through walls. I mean, can you imagine what life would be like? So cool.